All right, guys, I have an alert here in regards to the Hanford facility in Washington. Now, I've talked about this place several times, a lot of different red flag events coming from this facility. And as always, you have to stay on top of these nuclear events. The WIP facility situation in New Mexico a couple years ago, even ongoing to this day, getting no mainstream media coverage, is a perfect example of them not speaking the truths of what's going on here in this country with these nuclear plants. Now, we've talked about Indian Point. We've talked about several others, but this one in particular here in Hanford, a few years ago, there was a leak back in 2012. And here recently, these workers started pumping this AY-102 into another tank. They did this was started in March. Now, this most recent leak, they're trying to state, like they always do, that there's no harm to the public, nothing got into the ground, no contamination. But what took place here was a significant leak. And to put this into perspective, over the last 3 years, this area with this tank had leaked roughly 70 gallons. And this past weekend, they lost an estimated 3,000 gallons. This radioactive waste leaking from the inner shell to the outer shell. Now, they build these double shelled just in case this happens, but if there's a leak in the secondary shell, there's pretty much nothing they can do at that point when it hits the ground and starts seeping into the ground underneath. Now, I've covered so many different events regarding these nuclear facilities, and I see such a lack of mainstream coverage to try to get the masses to know what's really going on. It just shows me that if there was something going on here, they definitely would not be coming out and telling the public wide scale. Let's look at Southern California here recently, the methane leak. They let that go for a long time, spitting out metals, radon, all kinds of stuff, methane, you name it, all these different metals. And these people were getting sick in Porter Ranch. They were told, you got to leave. Then they were told it's safe to go back. These people come back. They said they fixed it. Everything was fine. These people are suffering the same things. In some cases, some people are in a worse situation than they were before, with rashes, headaches, illnesses popping up in this area. But once again, when you look at the situation, especially for the people on the ground there, they know it's all too real and that the mainstream media is not speaking on the situation like they should. They're not giving the exposure that needs to be there. They need to be all over this. You're talking hundreds, if not thousands of people exposed to contamination of some sort. And they're trying to say that everything's fine and dandy. And we know better. So, with that in mind, when it comes to these agencies, and like I said, in New Mexico, when we witnessed the ceiling collapse there, they knew that there was a contamination leak. They sent robots down, detected it. They would not even send humans. And they knew that it was a big problem. When they held the coverage meeting for the media to talk about it, there was like one or two locals in like one camera crew, no mainstream media there whatsoever. The room was empty. They also, during that time, took the sensors offline. And we know it was on purpose. They tried to say it was scheduled for maintenance, but it was timed out right with this incident. We suspected that there was a release of radiation. I believe Dutch may have even talked on this a little bit. And after the sensors came back up and were on, they had later admitted there was a small release. They admitted it afterwards, while the sensors were down and we had no data to show anything. But we knew what they were doing. And that's the point here. Hanford has a history of events here. Anybody up there that is local that can get some closer information, some new details, it would be appreciated by everybody. Anybody up here in this area that has a rad detector that could maybe get some readings too around it would be great as well. Because if you're going to get a spike in the waterway, maybe a riverway or something, coming that flows through here, get downstream, test the water, it could say a lot. But we're not going to know until we get out there and do it. And I'm saying we, the people, because they're not going to do it. And if they are, they're not going to show us. So shout outs to everybody out there fighting the good fight. An update here for folks in Washington. This is the current situation at this facility. 3,000 gallons of radioactive waste leaking into the outer shell. They're saying they expected this, so on and so forth, but I just want to let folks know out there, this is the situation, the current situation, where it sits. I'll leave a link in the description box, and I'll update you guys with more as I come across it. It's been Dabu7. Peace.